We've all been taught to do what we can to avoid spreading germs. We wash our hands, cover our nose and mouth when we sneeze, and stay home from school when sick to limit the number of germs that we share with others. But what exactly is a germ? Well, you may be surprised to learn this, but germs are living things.
It's alive!
That's right, they're a type of organism. Of course, we can't see germs with our eyes. They're so small that they can only be seen with a microscope. In fact, they're so incredibly tiny that millions of them could fit on the head of a pin. Now, there's a special word that we use to refer to these tiny or microscopic organisms. We call them microorganisms. There are 5 categories of microorganisms: bacteria, viruses, fungi, algae, and protists. Now, remember that not all microorganisms are germs, because the word germ refers specifically to microorganisms that can cause disease and illness. And not all microorganisms are bad. Let's explore each category of microorganism to get a better understanding. First up, we should take a look at bacteria. There are about 30,000 types of bacteria that are known and named, and scientists say that the number of bacteria that we have discovered is nothing compared to the number of unknown bacteria that exist. Bacteria is everywhere. They're in the bread that you eat, the soil that plants grow in, and even inside of you and me. There are more bacteria on Earth than every human, animal, and plant combined. Bacteria can be rod-shaped, spiral-shaped, or spherical. Some bacteria can be useful, such as certain types found in our stomachs and the stomachs of animals, which help with digestion and gut health, or the types that we use in factories to make cheese and yogurt. But other kinds can make us really sick. Bacterial infections can be treated with medicines that are specifically made to kill bacteria. These medicines are called antibiotics. But we must be careful and only use them as doctors tell us to, because if people use antibiotics in the wrong way, for example, to treat diseases like colds and the flu that are actually caused by viruses, then they stop working. The bacteria can evolve into what is known as an antibiotic-resistant form, meaning that they'll no longer be killed by the antibiotics. Because of this, we must treat bacteria and viruses differently. So, how do we treat viruses? Well, before we get to that, let's learn a little bit more about what a virus actually is. Viruses are parasites, which means that they can only survive inside the cells of other living things. They can cause a wide range of infectious diseases, from something as simple as the common cold to something as serious as smallpox. They cause these infectious diseases by getting inside the cells of living things and copying themselves over and over, like a copy machine running at full speed. Since viruses need to be inside a living thing to survive, they don't last very long on surfaces like doorknobs and toilet seats. But we still need to be careful since you can't see viruses with your eyes and therefore can't be sure that they aren't there. When touching commonly touched surfaces, such as doorknobs, keyboards, cell phones, or desktops, it's important to wash your hands or use hand sanitizer afterwards to help prevent yourself from getting sick. But what happens if you do get sick? Well, scientists have developed some antiviral medicines to help, and there are even preventative measures that we can take, such as getting vaccines, which many of us get when we're very young. However, some viruses, like the ones that cause the flu, change over time, which is why many people choose to get a flu shot every year. Now, let's talk about the life of the party, the fungi. You may already be a bit familiar with fungi, but you may not know them by that name. Have you ever eaten a mushroom? Because if so, you've eaten a fungus, because a mushroom is a type of fungi. Specifically, it is a club fungus, which means that it is a bunch of strands living underground called hyphae. Hyphae are the basic parts of fungi in action, decomposing leaves or rotting bark on the ground. When it's time to grow more, they grow a stalk and a cap, forming the mushroom that we all see popping out of the ground. On the bottom of the mushroom cap, there are a set of gills that have little clubs with fungus spores, which will allow the fungus to spread and more mushrooms to grow. But remember, not all club fungi are created equal, so don't eat any mushrooms that you find outside. There are over 50,000 types of mushrooms, and we only eat about 20 varieties. And there are even more types of club fungi than just mushrooms. For example, club fungi can even be found in a coral reef. Now let's take a look at another type of fungi. Have you ever had to throw away bread or fruit because of mold? Well, if so, then you have seen fungi up close and personal. That's right, mold is actually a fungus. Specifically, it's a zygote fungus, which have hyphae like mushrooms, but they reproduce in a different way. When it's time to make more fungi, they create a stalk and release something called zygospores. When your bread gets old and green or black, you are seeing a type of zygote fungus in action, and if you wait long enough, you'll see the stalks develop and the zygotes released. Last but not least, we have sac fungi. Bakers use something called yeast to make bread rise to that fluffy texture that we all know and love. And yeast is a type of sac fungi. Sac fungi can be found in colonies or groups because they grow very quickly and it takes a lot of them to get work done, so they tend to hang out together. As you can see, fungi come in many shapes and sizes, similarly to our next microorganism, algae. Algae can be plant-like in look and size, or single-celled microorganisms. In recent estimates, it has been said that there are over 72,500 species of algae in the world. But keep in mind that the term algae refers to many different organisms that produce oxygen through photosynthesis, which is the process of using light energy from the sun to make food in the form of carbohydrates. While all algae are capable of photosynthesis, these organisms are not all closely related. But certain features unite them and make it clear that they do not belong to the other major group of photosynthetic organisms, the land plants. Algae are often in damp places and water, but they're also able to survive on land. Algae can be found growing on tree trunks, animal fur, snowbanks, hot springs, and in soil, including desert crusts. Algae plays an incredibly important role in our ecosystem because they produce about half of the Earth's oxygen through photosynthesis. They also help land plants in the hugely important task of keeping levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere stable. We also cultivate algae to be used in various ways, like as an ingredient in fertilizer and animal feed, as a method of cleaning liquid waste, and as food. In fact, many countries eat types of algae as a vegetable. For example, China commonly uses over 70 species of algae in their cuisine, one of which is seaweed. Because of its abundance and nutritional value, algae is being considered as a potential solution for world hunger problems. This brings us to the last, but certainly not least, classification of microorganisms: protists. Protists, also called protozoa, are more advanced than any other microorganism because, although many are single-celled, there are more like plant and animal cells in their complexities. Some are autotrophic, meaning that they make their own food through photosynthesis, like algae, and others are heterotrophic, meaning that they eat organic material. Protists love moisture, so intestinal infections and other diseases that they may cause often spread through contaminated water. Some protists are parasites, like viruses, which means that they need to live on or in another organism, like an animal or plant, in order to survive. For example, the protists that cause malaria grow inside red blood cells and eventually destroy them. But remember, not all of them are bad. Many protists are also considered to be plankton, which are drifting organisms that live in the ocean and play a crucial role in the food chain. Now that we've explored the 5 classifications of microorganisms, let's play a quick round of trivia.